Welcome to Layers of Communication with your host, Lydia Taggart. Life presents experiences that add layers to who we are and how we see the world, affecting how we communicate. Lydia is here to take apart the layers and create new ways to connect and build relationships. So now, please welcome the host of Layers of Communication, your core boss, Lydia Taggart.
Hello, welcome to Layers of Communication. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and we're listening on the BBM Global Network, TuneIn Radio, and iHeartRadio. Today, we're going to be talking about business relationships. That is a special layer that sometimes we put our business relationships in a different box of our life. We put it over there, and then we come home and we have our other relationships. But business really encompasses all of our life, whether or not we're at work, right? We come home and we worry about what happened at work, or we anticipate what's going to happen the next day. And so this is really an important layer to discuss. I'm super excited to share with you today. When we have a business goal or a dream, something we want to be, and this is more than just business. Anytime we want to be something bigger than we are, we find someone who's already done it, right? Even if we don't consciously go out and look for them, we've had that influence of somebody in our lives that has shown us that it's a good thing, and we want to go and be like them. We want to go out and do something amazing like this person. Well, I had this experience with a person that I didn't realize I had taken on as kind of a mentor. I took all of her books. I was super excited to read everything that she ever put out. I would read it all in one day, and I couldn't wait for her to put out her next everything. I wanted all of it. I was just soaking it all up. One day, I got the opportunity to go to one of her presentations. I was so excited. I got front row seats. Front row for my favorite person. Maybe I would meet her, right? Maybe, just maybe I could meet her because I'm front row. And so I sat down in the front row with my friend, who was also a super fan. And she was a much bigger fan than I was, and I didn't realize that until we were there sitting on the front row together. I was sharing this idea with her. Maybe I'm going to meet her. This is so exciting. There's thousands of people in the room with us, thousands. And she pulls out of her big bag. I was like, she brought her lunch and everything in this bag or something. But no, she had brought a big poster, like at a football game where they have those posters, rah, rah, go team. She brought this big poster. I love you. You're so awesome. I was like, wow, I'm not as big of a fan as I thought I was. She was the only person in the whole place who brought a sign. And she said, I am meeting her. Not, I hope I meet her, or maybe I'll meet her. She said, I'm going to meet her. And so she got this sign out. And sure enough, we're sitting on the front row, and I was like, there she is. She's on stage. And my friend starts waving her sign up in the air. I love you. And I think she even screamed out how much she loved her, even though she was giving her presentation and saying, hi, nice to meet you. I'm here to talk to you. And this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to share some stuff with you. And my friends, they're going, I love you. So how often are we that excited to meet our people that we want to meet? I was not that excited. I was excited, but I wasn't that excited. So there's the first part, right? So this lady is on stage, totally admire and respect her, amazing person, yay. And she stops and looks at my friend sitting next to me, and she's like, oh, wow, you are a big fan. She stopped her whole presentation to address the sign and the screaming fan. And my heart was just so excited. We're going to meet her, because I was with her, right? I was sitting right next to her. We're friends. We're going to go meet her. And so we got up there, and remember, I was like dying to get all of her stuff. I couldn't wait to read her next book or her next article or get her next anything that she put out. And so she comes off the stage to meet after the presentation, right? She comes off the stage to meet us. And she totally brushed me off. She only wanted to meet my friend with the sign. I was so shocked. Here's this person that I was idolizing. I want to be like her. And I have become a lot like her. I'm totally not in the same league as her because she's been doing it a lot longer than I have. But I'm writing books, I'm presenting, I'm doing a lot of the similar things as she still is. And she just kind of brushed me off because I didn't have a big sign and I wasn't yelling. So from then, and then she was, oh yeah, hi. And like all the other people, just, oh yeah, hi, nice to meet you. And it wasn't at all what I was expecting. And when I finally met this person, I was like, oh yay. It was so disappointing. What we want to strive for in business relationships, because that was a fan relationship, but I wanted it also to be a business relationship. There's no way she would have known that, right? But it was kind of oh, bummer. Now I can't really pursue that business relationship. She just totally brushed me off. And on the other hand, this last weekend was a funeral for John Huntsman Sr., also very admired. I did never meet him, but I still kind of wished that I had. Since his funeral and during his funeral, they aired his funeral on our local radio station. It was very, very big kind of to-do, for lack of better words. It was a big to-do that he was having this funeral. And tell you a little bit about John Huntsman Sr. in case you don't know much about him. He was on the billionaire. Wasn't on a billionaire list. He was a billionaire, but he was on the top 5 Forbes list of the most, what is it called? The richest people in America or something like that. Anyway, big fancy to-do guy. And he started the Huntsman Cancer Institute here in Salt Lake. And my brother went there before he passed away. And the lives that this man has touched by his research and his philanthropy, just amazing. And just really, really admire the man. Everyone that I have ever heard say anything about him has been how personal he was. He's so personable. He made you feel better when you were with him. He made you feel so special and important. And everything that he did was about charity and love. And, I wish I could have met him. I still look up to him. And, we kind of can have a relationship with people even if we've never met them. I had a relationship with the first person that I really wanted to meet through her books and through all the other things that she was doing. But when I met her in person, it changed. When I have this relationship with John Huntsman Sr., even though I've never met him, I can't imagine it being any different unless it was better when I met him, or if I were to meet him. And I think that's what we really need to work on with our business relationships, is to be authentic. How can we be who we really are, whether we're met or not in person? And so I hope that you can see my authenticity with you as my audience. And I love you, and you're my fan, and I'm your fan. And I just am so excited that we get to have a relationship. I hope that someday I can meet you and that we will have a better relationship when we're in person and not be disappointed. I think that's a big part of business relationships. We get disappointed when we put our business relationships in a different place than where we are when we're not at business and not working. But really, we need to align it with who we really are and be ourselves all the time and not compartmentalize who we are. Our layers encompass us all the way around. We can't take our layer off and just leave it. We can go through it, we can do different things with it, but it's always a part of us. Whether or not we're in person or just a voice on the radio or in a podcast video, anything, YouTube, if we're who we are all the time, that will strengthen our business relationships and every other relationship. So that's what we're looking for today, is how to be more authentic, how to strengthen those relationships, and really be congruent. I think that's the word, congruent, so that we're not going to disappoint us. Because I know that if my first presenter person that I'm not going to tell you her name because she's still alive, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to work something out with her in the future. Because there's a forgiveness level, right? We can always forgive. But there's always something more that we can do if we're true to who we are, 100%. All right. You can find me at lydiataggart.com as always. Today we are going to be talking more about miracles and coaching and this business breakthrough kind of stuff. We've got a great guest coming on. Her name is Amber, and we'll introduce her to you more after the break. You're listening on TuneIn Radio and iHeartRadio at the BBM Global Network. This is Layers of Communication, and I'm Lydia. Welcome back to Layers of Communication on iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio. We're on the BBM Global Network. I am your host, Lydia Taggart. Today we're talking about business relationships. I want to introduce you to our guest today, Amber Apple. She's one of my friends, and every time that I have been with her or seen anything from her, I have just been touched by how heart-centered she is. She's so true to herself. And so I really appreciate her coming on today. Amber Apple grew up with a love for helping people, and it's obvious to me. She's been in the healing industry for 6 years as a massage therapist and started studying personal development at age 9. 9! I didn't even hear about anything like that until I was much, much older. She has witnessed the miracles that come from the power of healing your mindset in her life, and she loves to teach others how to witness the same miracles in their own life. We have a lot in common. Being a coach is her purpose and her passion, and she continues to work with her own personal coaches. As a speaker, coach, and belief breakthrough expert, her mission is to help people access self-love, clarity, peace, passion, achieve financial freedom and purpose through her transformational processes and one-on-one coaching. And she believes that people should live a life that they love every single day. And when Amber's not speaking or coaching, she spends her time with her adorable 4-year-old son. Almost 4. His birthday is just about coming. She's lived all over the country, and she currently resides in Utah. And she is also was it a network affiliator, Amber?
Affiliate marketer.
Affiliate marketer. What's the difference? Just backwards?
So affiliate marketing is like when you advertise for a company and you help with their products, and you get paid from that for helping them out. So I work with products that I really love. So
awesome. Well, Amber, I'm super excited to hear about your perspective on business relationships. You've got a lot of business happening and personal self-development since you were 9. Holy cow. You've probably got a lot of awesome tips for us.
Yeah, so it was interesting. My whole family are readers, and I loved reading too when I was younger, but I couldn't really read like the fantasy type books and things like that. Like I couldn't keep them and not put them down, right? And then I came across this book one day that was about personal development, and I couldn't put it down. And that's when I knew, I'm like, ooh, so then I went and researched books like that and started to study those things. And it's something that I've been really passionate about for a long time. So
I love it. I love it. Just yesterday, my son picked up a book, and I have books all over the place, right? But he knows that they're my books, and he knows that that's what I'm doing. And so this book I had left on the chairs, like the arm of the chair, and I didn't tell him anything about it. And it is called Who Moved My Cheese? And it doesn't sound like a self-help book. But he's 16. Awesome. He's my 16-year-old. And so he's like, oh, who moved my cheese? Let's read about that. And so he was totally into it. I think that there's a lot. We think that we have to read fantasy, but there's so much more And we really do connect if we give it a chance. I think that we just are afraid of, oh, I have to be fixed, and so I'm not going to read that.
Yeah.
He was reading.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. So what brought you to be an expert in the field of business relationships? Tell us a little bit of your history with business and relationships.
Okay, awesome. So it kind of started out a little bit different, and you might not think it really related to business at first, but I found that it really did affect how I was showing up in that area. So when I was younger, I wanted to please everyone all the time, a big people pleaser. And if I didn't, I would hold that in, and I wouldn't share that with anyone. And I would keep it in, and then I would lash out in some other way, like I'd maybe break a rule or do something like that. And because I felt so guilty, and I didn't know how to handle it because I didn't know I could share that with someone. And I've noticed that went into my business relationships as I got older, because I started feeling like I couldn't share with people how I was really feeling about what was going into the business, or a relationship in the business, a teammate, a business partner, anything like that. Like, I would be so nervous to share how I genuinely felt, because I had been so nervous to do that growing up, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And so it portrayed into my business by not wanting to disappoint people. And so I would just get into these little things where I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to speak up because people aren't going to want to hear what I have to say, and then I'm going to feel stupid, and like all these thoughts would come in my mind. And so it all kind of tied together. And when I started realizing that when I shared, I actually had good ideas, and it didn't matter if everybody loved the idea, it just mattered if I did. And then if other people wanted to hop onto it and help me out, then that was awesome. But I started to realize, hey, I can share how I feel. I can be authentic in myself and be excited and not feel like I'm going to look silly. And so I started being more open with people, and that really helped to shift my business in a whole new way. So.
Oh, I love that. That's just like we were talking about in the intro part, being authentic. When we get back from the break, let's talk more about how you can step into being more authentic and what steps you took. And so we're going to go to that break now. You're listening to the BBM Global Network, iHeart Radio, and TuneIn Radio. This is Layers of Communication. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and we are visiting with Amber Apple about business relationships today. We're going to take that break, so stay close. Welcome back to Layers of Communication on iHeart Radio, TuneIn Radio, and the BBM Global Network. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart. You can find me at lydiataggart.com. And today we are visiting with Amber Apple. We were just talking before the break about being authentic and how she was able to change her business relationships when she decided to step into her authenticity and accept that she had good ideas, whether or not other people agreed. Amber, tell us more. How did you transition from, oh, I can't share my ideas, to, I don't care if you like my idea or not, I have a great idea? How did you make that transition?
There was kind of a few different things that happened, but the first thing was just recognizing that I do have a voice that's worth being heard. And that had a lot to do with the personal development that I started doing when I got older, because I actually found out they had events, and I didn't know that before. So when I went to my first event, I had that breakthrough that my voice is good enough to be heard. And so from that, I started just implementing it throughout my life in different areas. And then in business, when I started getting into that, at first I thought I had to follow how everybody else was doing it, or else I wouldn't succeed, because I had to do exactly how they did it, right? And then it just wasn't feeling authentic for me. I didn't feel good doing it how someone else did it, because it wasn't me, obviously. And so I didn't feel comfortable talking about things or explaining things to people, because I felt like, okay, well, this doesn't sound like me, and I want them to know who I am. And so I just started sharing what I felt about what was happening, or how I wanted to share something with someone. And I started noticing that people were responding to that. And before there'd be some people that responded to how I did it someone else's way, but it happened so much more when I did it my way. And it felt so good. So I would just suggest taking little steps at a time, like knowing that your voice is meant to be heard, and do it throughout your life in different areas and implement that into your business relationships and just start. If you don't want to jump all the way in, start with something small, like speaking up for one idea you have, or talking to someone how you feel like you want to talk to them, and see how they react to that, because people react better to you being yourself than if they feel like you're being someone else, because people can feel that. We all can feel those things from other people. We can feel when someone's being honest or dishonest with us. And so be yourself. And that would be my biggest suggestion. And know that, like, listen to people. Don't just like jump in and try to give them what you think they want, and just be authentic and listen to them, and then respond how you would authentically respond in your day-to-day life.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where the sales scripts come in. We feel salesy, and we're doing like what we're supposed to, what the boss says, follow the script and sell the product or something. And the people on the other side, they feel that it's just a sales pitch. And I think maybe a sales script is a good way to take that first step, that you are speaking, you are saying something and actually using your voice, but then take that and modify it so that it's coming from you and your heart. And if you're not in love with the product that you're selling, maybe you need to switch products or find a different way to love it. I think that if we don't agree with what we're trying to say, then that's a very disconnected attempt that will really come through. What do you think of that?
Oh, I completely agree with that. What is the point of doing something that you're not in love with, that you're not passionate about? Like, I will only work with things that I'm excited about, because if I'm just kind of mundane and just speaking to speak, people are going to feel that, and they're going to be like, well, why do I want that? Like, you don't seem excited about it, and you can't fake like that genuine excitement, right. So so be passionate about what you do, because when you're passionate about what you do, you will find a way to make it work, and people will listen to you because they can feel that from you, and it gets them excited. And on the other side of that, don't just try to sell everyone, because not everyone wants what you have. And if you're trying to convince someone into it, how authentic and genuine is it really? And how much are they actually going to use it? Or how much would they actually act upon it in a business? Like, if you wanted them to be on your team or whatever it is that you're doing, if they're not actually excited about it and you have to convince them into it, then they're not going to succeed, and you're just kind of wasting your time and theirs. So make sure that you're resonating with those people who want that, who have those dreams that you can help them with, and make sure that you're being authentic in that and not being out of integrity.
Yes, I've seen this in multi-level marketing where they're like, oh, are you interested? I'm like, I could use some more information. And then they're like, yeah. Oh, I got a nibble. But it's just a nibble. It's not a chomp,
Yeah.
And so they treat it like it's a great big chomp and push until finally the person that nibbled is like, whoa, it's just a nibble.
Yeah. Right, exactly. That's true.
So, what do you wish you knew sooner?
Kind of the same thing that I just shared. Honestly, I wish I would have known sooner that I don't have to work with everyone. I can choose who I want to work with. If someone is like, say with the affiliate marketing, if someone is not interested, if someone is like kind of ornery and doesn't really want to talk to you and have an actual genuine human conversation with you, I don't really want to work with that person. And that's just me personally. Like, some people might want that. You just want to like, hey, I just want to work with anybody that does this, But for me, authentically, I want to work with the person who's open to answering questions. I want to work with the person who's open to learning and growing. And so that's who I choose to work with. And I wish I would have known sooner that I have a choice of who I want to work with, and that I can, keep that open for people who are actually interested, and not say like, hey, come work with me or you're going to miss out. Come work with me. Like, it's like, no, if you are excited and want to talk to me, awesome. We will go into it more. So I just wish I would have followed my instincts earlier with that and known that I have a choice in that and they have a choice. So.
Yes, we always have a choice, even in business and work relationships. I think we get into this mindset that we have to have money. And so we have to have a relationship business wise, and we forget there's still a choice. All right, we're going to take another break. So we'll talk more after about choices. And you're listening to the BBM Global Network, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. This is Layers of Communication. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart. Today we are visiting with Amber Apple, and we'll be right back. Stay close. Welcome back to Layers of Communication on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and the BBM Global Network. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart. Today we're visiting with Amber Apple, and we're talking about business relationships and how we still have a choice in that relationship, even though we need money, we need to have employment and business things happening, but we still have a choice. So, Amber, how did you switch from were there steps that you took to be able to recognize that you had a choice, or did it just kind of dawn on you one day like, oh, I get to choose?
I think it just kind of dawned on me during a conversation. So I was talking to this person about business, and I really was not that excited to talk to them because they were just being really negative and, didn't really want to talk, didn't really wasn't really interested in learning and growth. They just was stiff, wanted it this way, and it's like, hey, well, you have to be open to growing. And so during that conversation, I felt how unhappy I was talking to this person, and I also felt really sad for them. Like, I wanted them to find something that they wanted, but I also felt like, well, I don't want to be the one that's like, I'm hearing the negative talk every day, or I'm hearing this every day, or whatever it is, And so I started feeling really unhappy, and I'm like, is this why I'm doing my business? Like, do I want to feel unhappy and feel like it's a drag to do every day, or do I want it to be like that excitement and passion as it was when I first started? And that's kind of when it dawned on me that, like, wow, I can let this person know, hey, it doesn't really sound like this is a fit for you. It sounds like you're maybe looking for something else, and I don't want to take any more of your time. And because I felt like I was also in this convincing stage, like, you'll love it, it's this, because that's what I was told to do by who I was being coached by in this past business I did. So it's not the one I'm currently in, but, and so I felt like I was being told, like, yeah, say this and this and this and this and this. And so I was like, oh, but I don't want to sit and try to convince her. Like, I know that this is not a fit. I know it wouldn't be good for her. I know that it would put her in a bad place. And so I started feeling really guilty about those things. And so I was like, hey, I have a choice to tell her the truth and tell her how I'm feeling about it, or have a choice to keep convincing her and then maybe potentially putting her in a bad spot later on. And so I chose into telling her, hey, this doesn't sound like it's a good fit. And, just had that conversation with her. And from that, we actually became friends because she was really grateful that I actually listened to her. I actually heard what she was saying, and it kind of shifted her perspective a little bit. Like, obviously she didn't join the business. She didn't do any of that because it wouldn't have been good for her at that time. But it was good for her to hear from someone, hey, I'm listening and this is what I hear. And so from there I just kind of realized, hey, I have the choice to do this. And so it was just kind of dawned on me during that time. And that's kind of what I help people do. Like, remember, you have a choice. You can choose to do this or do that. And it doesn't have to be someone else's way. You get to honor yourself and how you're feeling. And so it's just been a huge, huge help in every aspect of my life. And I just hope and wish that everybody starts to do that and know that they have that option, and it's not just black and white,
That's beautiful. And as we step into our own authenticity and be true to ourselves and listening to ourselves when those situations come up, we give permission and encourage the other people to step into their own authenticity too, and let them know that their voice is worth being heard, that we're bringing everybody up. I just love that. Love that. Mm-hmm. All right, Amber, are there common myths about business relationships that you know of? Any other common myths? I think that one of the myths has been that you have to do it the sales script. You have to do what the boss says. And of course, if you don't want to get fired, you need to have a way to negotiate or discuss it with him or her, or you will have a problem. Yeah. You can't just not show up to work if you disagree, or you won't have a job. But are there any other myths about business relationships that you know of?
Let's see. I feel like that's a big one that you just mentioned that we had talked about. Another one may be just like the convincing of someone. And that's something I know I've talked about already quite a bit on this show, but it's the convincing of someone like, I was told one time in a business that I was in, I've tried a lot of businesses in my life, I'll just admit that right now, but like, I was told in one business that I did that, they want it. They just don't know they want it, and that always really bothered me because I felt like, oh my gosh, what if they really don't want it though? Like, is it really that they do? And I was so naive in that because I had just started trying these business endeavors and I was like, oh, okay, so what do I say? And, I felt like I had to follow these specific things. And so that's where the convincing came in, where like, oh, they do want it. I just have to let them know that it's in there and that it's just there. They just don't know it yet, because I get that there's a difference between someone actually not wanting something and not being interested in something and someone that maybe just is a little bit nervous about something, right? There's a huge difference because someone might really want it and they have these goals, but they're like, oh, but I don't know because of this. And then that's when you can kind of help them a little bit and figure out what it is they want and if it is something that is in their line of sight. But if someone genuinely is like, no, I'm really not interested, don't try to keep them on the phone or keep talking to them and convincing them, because then they're either going to say yes out of obligation so that you be quiet and stop talking to them about it, or they're going to block you and not ever want to talk to you again. And this is really hurtful for people with friends and family that they've done this to. And then it's like, oh, well, anytime this person talks to me, they're just going to try and sell me something or try and do something. And so they don't want to talk to them. And that's really crappy, So just don't try to convince someone if you can really feel that they're not interested. Like, you are going to be successful with the people who actually want it. And you don't need to try and convince the people that don't, because they're not going to be a great help to you anyway. So that's a big thing. That's
one of the main reasons why I started writing my book about manipulation and how to do things without manipulation and having this respect. I came across a great book, The Respect Effect, and it's just amazing how much more productivity you get when there's a level of respect. And it's just amazing. I'm still learning so much about it. But having that respect and not trying to convince them, and I think the key to the whole respect and discussing things is when you say they just don't know they want it yet. They just don't know yet. Or that's putting ourselves up on a higher level, like, oh, they're below us. They just don't understand anything. And that's not respectful. And that comes through. That comes through a lot. But
right. Well, you don't want to talk to them how you would want to be talked to. Don't talk to if you are talking to them and you feel like, hey, if someone said this to me, I would feel like they'd think I was really dumb or that I didn't understand it. And would you want to be talked to like that? No. So think about that before you're talking to someone.
Yeah, because we want to have long-lasting relationships, not just a quick sale. I mean, what if it turns into something bigger and longer? Like my first example when my friend and I were at the presentation, that could have, in my mind, developed into a long-lasting business relationship. But it was just a quick, I'm going to say hi to my fan, instead of respecting we're on the same level and we can have a discussion and maybe develop something. So I think that's something else we need to keep in mind too, is long-term possibilities. All right, we're going to visit more after the break with Amber Apple on the iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and the BBM Global Network. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and this is Layers of Communication. Stay close. Welcome back to the BBM Global Network, TuneIn Radio, and iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and this is Layers of Communication. Today, we're discussing the layer of business relationships with Amber Apple. Now, Amber, what is your favorite success story about your topic? being as a business relationship. What's your favorite success story about this?
So my favorite would be a little bit behind where I was able to, with that respecting of myself and following what I want to do and what I feel like is best for me and the people that I'm talking to, is when I shifted out of the businesses that weren't really following the integrity of what I wanted, I chose to find something that would. And as soon as I made that decision and respected myself, I came across another business opportunity that was completely in alignment with my integrity that I had and the relationship of sales and not just being in salesy sales, you know? So my favorite success is that, like, when I trusted myself, I found that. And I've now been able to build amazing relationships with the people that I'm talking to and amazing relationships with my teammates and knowing that we all respect each other. And I'm so grateful for that. So I've had a lot more success with this than I have in the past because of that honoring of self and honoring of other people.
Now, do you see a difference in honoring and respect? I see them kind of like we should step it up and just honor everyone. How do you feel that interplays with your business relationships?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that they are pretty similar in just honoring, and I guess sometimes when I'm talking, I will use a bunch of different words because I'm trying to explain how I'm feeling.
Right.
But, I completely agree with the honoring. Honor yourself, honor other people, and then they feel like they are able to honor themselves, and it just creates a way better relationship for everyone.
Absolutely. So what tips do you have for our audience today?
I have 3. One would be to actually hear the people you're talking to. Listen to what they are saying. Know that they are, worthy of being heard. The second would be relationship sales instead of just salesy sales. And I hope that makes sense, but building relationships and creating those for your business and instead of just the convincing thing again. And then being able to hear what they need and help them regardless if it's with you or someone else, making sure that you're helping them even if they're not going to be in your business or your work or whatever it is that you're doing, helping them to get where they do want to be as much as you can.
Yeah, and that really comes around, even if they're not going to be working with you personally, that energy of I'm going to just help and love people comes back. It really comes back in a big way. I've just seen so many miracles in my life personally because I want to help people and then miracles come back to me. So I think that's a really huge key.
Exactly.
And the honoring and respecting them as well. All right. Is there anything that you would have done differently if you had a second chance? I mean, we've talked about what you would have known sooner or different things like that, but is there anything that you would do different?
I think it relates to what I wish I would have known sooner. I wish I was running business the way that I was just following like a sheep, like a blind sheep, and not following what I knew I needed to do. That's something I wish I would have done differently. And at the same time, I'm really glad that I didn't because I got to learn from that. I got to learn from everything I did. And that's why I'm at where I'm at today.
Right. That's beautiful. So many people wish that they did it different and then they get stuck in that regret a little bit, even if they're like, I appreciate that I'm different now because of that. But really to honor our past as part of who we are, that's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you coach people and you do presentations and different things. How can our audience get in touch with you and continue this conversation with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I would love that. So I'm on Facebook. I have 2 different pages. So my personal page, if you want to add me as a friend, is just my name. It's Amber Nasha Apple Toner. And I know it's kind of long, but I have my little African Maasai name in there and then my my son's last name. And then I have a business page that's just Amber N Toner, N as in Nancy. So
I wondered about Nasha. That's your African name?
yeah, I did a humanitarian project in Africa in 2016, I believe it was. And we went to the Maasai tribe, and they gave us Maasai names. They just looked at like our personalities, and it was just the chief got to give us our names. And so I've been using that. I love it, and I'm so grateful for it. So pretty cool.
Oh, how fun. I always wondered why you had such a long name on your Facebook. I just had thought you had a long name. That is awesome.
Thanks.
So
Love it.
I think business for me is a way to get out and do those service opportunities and to create more ability to provide service like that, to go out and do an excursion in Africa to help people. Do you have any other, like, why would you have a business relationship that maybe is more than just to meet the bills?
Why would you have more of a business relationship, you said?
Yeah, like what's a stronger purpose other than just to meet the bills?
I think it is definitely service. That's one of my biggest goals in this life is I am going to be traveling, doing humanitarian work with my son. And I feel like when you have a business that's being successful, you're able to do that. You can build these relationships where you have these opportunities to go serve other people and pay it forward. And it's such an amazing opportunity. And I'm so for that. And then also just the serving of other people, help other people be just as successful as you. Because don't we all just want to be in that world where we're all loving each other, all helping each other and serving each other? And so those are definitely things that I am 100% all for with the relationships and business as well.
That's beautiful. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Amber. And people can find you on Amber Nasha Apple Toner on Facebook, or Amber N Toner, N as in Nancy, right?
Yep. So,
okay.
And yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show with you today.
I'm super happy to have you. Thank you so much. I think there's been a lot of pieces here that people are going to benefit from and be able to have better relationships in their business world. So we're going to take a break, and I will be back, and we're going to thank Amber for being with us, and then I will come back without her in a moment. On iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, the BBM Global Network. This is Layers of Communication, and I am Lydia Taggart, your host. Welcome back to the Layers of Communication. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and we're listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and the BBM Global Network. Today we're discussing business relationships. Now, I know someone, actually several people who feel this way, but this one particular friend feels really awkward and like she cannot talk to her boss. She will whisper and pass notes to her friends at work and say, "Will you tell the boss whatever it is she wants to have relayed to him?" Or she just is not comfortable talking with him at all. And I looked at this situation and I thought, there needs to be a better business relationship here. And what is it that is stopping her from being able to communicate with her superior? And I think that is exactly what it is. She feels that he is superior to her, and there's not an equal ground, like we're a team working for the same outcome for this business to be successful. She feels like she's just there to do the little grunt work, and he's up above, like to be the ruler over her, even though she's in America and she knows that there's all this freedom and everything, but she still feels like she can't go and approach him with her concerns. And they're little concerns, like she wants to take a trip over the weekend or something else. And I know there's lots of people who will lie to their boss and say, "Oh, I had a family emergency," or "I had something come up, I'm sick," but they're really out on a vacation. And I think that's one of the first things we need to change. In order to have this respect, we need to respect the superiors, the bosses, or whoever it is that's in charge of making the schedule and stuff, if we have enough respect for ourselves to tell the truth and be honest, be in our authenticity, even if it's just, I want to go on a vacation and take a break, not come up with an I'm too sick to come in, or I had a family emergency, some other kind of story. Those subliminal exchanges of I'm lying to you, they come through, and it creates this dissonance that we cannot have a fully authentic conversation with a person. So that's one of my things. I want us to be authentic with ourselves, trust and respect ourselves well enough that if we go and say, hey, I really need to go on this trip, why would they say no? Really? Why would they say no? They might say, well, we really need you here, or something like that. But they're going to let you go, probably. Or they're going to think you're just going to call in sick anyway. So I think there's a lot to be said about respect and trust. And trusting ourselves, trusting that we are worth it. And when we step into that we are worth it, then we can have a better conversation and build these business relationships to a place of respect and honor, regardless of if they're superior and we're just on the bottom rung. We can all have a conversation and be open to that 100%. Loved what Amber said today about having your voice worth being heard. And that's part of it too. So find me at lydiataggart.com. Send me your comments, questions, anything else. You can sign up for our frame training, and we'll see you next week on the iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, BBM Global Network. And this is Layers of Communication. Make it an awesome week. You're worth it, and so are they. This is Lydia Taggart signing out from Layers of Communication.
You've been listening to Layers of Communication with your host, Lydia Taggart. Tune in next week as we break through the layers in order to communicate and connect down to your core on Lydia Taggart's Layers of Communication.